Hello, and welcome to the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters podcast about continuing education. My name is Alice Young. I am NAPIA's second vice president, and I am also the owner of Brown O'Haver in Oklahoma. We're a public insurance adjusting company here, and I'm here with Rick Deering. Rick, do you want to tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. My name's Rick Deering. I had 2 MA licensed public adjuster, member of NAPIA. I served on several committees. I was just last week voted onto the ladder for TAPIA, so I'm looking forward to helping in that regard more, and looking forward to talking to you about continuing education and certifications today. I've been on your committee that you oversee for a couple of years. Thank you for your leadership in that. We've done some good things, I believe, for the association and made some good headway, and looking forward to talking to you about it.
Well, congratulations, Rick. I didn't know that you were an officer now, so congratulations on that. You're well deserved. And yeah, we have done some really amazing things in this committee. And I think the biggest thing that we did last year was we were able to create a bylaw with our statutes with the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters that in order to be an officer or to be on the board that you do have to hold certain qualifications. And this is so important because we are trying to show that we hold the highest standards in the industry. Let's talk a little bit about that, Rick. Talk to me about why certification is so important to you.
Well, me personally, I came from the carrier world, and I've shared in some of our committee meetings, before that when it was with Farmers who I started and broke into the industry with, and I had a supervisor, really kind of my first mentor, and he would always tell me, hey, when a guy comes in, a visitor, and he gives you a business card and he's got a lot of letters behind his name, you really need to pay attention to what he's saying, and I laughed about that and chuckled. But then I realized over time that the ones who came in and who had put in the effort to earn those, alphabets behind their name, which some of them actually had, it was for a reason. They were quality individuals who dedicated to their craft and always pushing, to learn more. My mom is a retired English teacher. She still substitutes to this day at 73 or 74, whatever she is. So I grew up in a home, with a mom that was always pushing education and this and that. And I just, for our clients, it is paramount that we stay out in front of everything that's coming down the pike or that's out in the distance, because just like sort of the AI stuff, you blink and it's here. Same thing, changes are always happening. And so, I think it's incumbent upon us, if we really are going to be the best, which, at NAPIA, we hold ourselves to a high standard. Every firm that's involved, and that's a member does that. And if we're going to do that, then we need to also, our actions need to line up with that. And one way we can do that is kind of what we did, pushing that bylaw change through, which I think was incredible. It just really gives us, I don't want to say legitimacy, but it shows everyone that as an organization, we are wanting to move forward and be the best. And we're going to continue learning everything that we can to help our policyholders, recover from these situations they find themselves in.
Yeah, this is a side note, but I just found it interesting that you talked about your mom. There's actually a study out that says that typically children rise to the level of their mother's education, which I find fascinating. So for you women out there, we're definitely going to want to get our certification so that our kids can match that. But so we, and it's also important to me too. My dad had the SPPA. I talk about that quite a bit. My dad receiving his SPPA was one of his greatest accomplishments. He talked about it all the time, more than he even did with his masters and things like that. It meant the world to him, because the fact of the matter is that if we don't have our certification, you can bet that these adjusters that work for the carrier will. And so in order for us to negotiate and work and do the best for our client, we should have these certifications, because we'll be able to understand what these insurance adjusters know. And you as a past insurance company adjuster can speak to that. Talk to us a little bit about what the training that you had as an adjuster was.
Farmers was incredible with the training, and I owe them a debt of gratitude to this day for how they pushed me to really investigate. Now this was 1996 when I started this. The climate was a little different then. Farmers always was looking for a way to pay claims, until about halfway into my tenure, and then Zurich took us over, and that all changed. But point being, it matters. I can tell you from sitting on that side of the fence, when we would receive, documentation or representation from some of the clients, that did hire either public adjusters or attorneys and what have you. I mean, it's obvious that the claim handling skill and the respect that you receive, or in that regards that I would give, when I was on the carrier side, it's a real thing. It's talked about amongst those adjusters, just like we talk about things. Hey man, have you dealt with Rick Deering? That guy's, this or that. And it just seems like when you have some of those certification, it automatically, kind of like I said, it brings some, I hate to say legitimacy, but it shows that we're, like Chip Merlin likes to talk about, you're a contender. You're not just a pretender. You're in the game, and you're in to win, and you're willing to do the outside the work. Because let's be honest, Alice, we already can't do everything we have to do in a day. So most of the time this comes on these classes come on weekends, at night, once the kids have gone to bed and what have you, so it's extra work for us, but I think it's truly valuable and truly important.
What designations do you currently hold?
I have AINS, which is Associate of Insurance. I'm about to sit for the Associate in Claims. It's a funny story. I started that when I was at Farmers, and fortunately through the institutes, because it's Social Security tied, they've been able to carry all my classes from Farmers over to, now in my profile. And so I will soon have the AIC, but currently I have AINS, I have the CPPA, I have the SPPA, and then I'm a certified appraiser and umpire CPAU designation through the IAUA.
So what we're talking about, we can talk about, we can have many podcasts about this if we wanted to, but today we want to talk about the CPPA and the SPPA. As a side note, I am a CPPA and an SPPA as well. I'm also an AIC. I'm not an AINS, but the interesting part is, and this could be, again, we can maybe discuss this later, but the AIC is actually pretty, I don't know if easy is the right word, but it's in line with your SPPA, because many of the classes that you take with the SPPA allows you to then apply them to the AIC. So it's very helpful towards getting that, getting that designation, which is kind of what you were talking about, which that is something that the Institutes does that's very nice, is if you have other courses, they'll let you know, hey, you have this many courses, you could add that to this particular designation, which just helps you to continue to grow your education. So with this CPPA, will you talk a little bit about, for you, how you started that process, what you did to get it, how long it took you, kind of what your time frame that you wanted in order to get that?
Well, the funny thing is, Alice, is I got the CPPA while doing my SPPA. I mean, I didn't even realize that was going to happen. And actually, it's funny. Before I even joined NAPIA, I knew I wanted to have the SPPA designation. And so I came to my first meeting ever was the Clay's meeting in Galveston at the San Luis. And I showed up, and I have SPPA, and no one there knew me.
Yeah.
How's this guy? Who is this guy?
He's already an SPPA?
Yeah, already SPPA. And funny me, I didn't know the history, your father and all those other guys that started that program. And really, it was in talking to Steve Figlin, and all those guys and Goodman, and talking about how, it was really, really a special designation. No wonder your dad was so excited and proud of that one, because it was really looked up at, from that profession. It was really the first time, I believe, that the PAs had ever, started holding themselves to standards and things like that to match the insurance companies, like you just alluded to. So the CPPA was actually pretty easy for me. Now, I don't know if it still works in that type of overlap, and I'm not sure if it was because I'd already had some classes through some of my other designations, but when I went through, I actually got the CPPA second. It's funny, and that one's not a true designation. It's just a certification. I have them both hanging on the wall, and the CPPA is just a small one, while the SPPA is, larger.
Yeah, this is my SPPA right here. You can't really see it.
Yeah.
I didn't put the CPPA certification up, but and the reason why I wanted to bring this up is I think it's so important, and I think it's one of the biggest misnomers that people in the industry and at NAPIA don't understand or don't know, is that yes, you can receive your CPPA certification. In addition to your SPPA certification, you can receive it by itself. And I think that part of the issue is that the Institute's website is a little bit confusing. It doesn't have its own designation or its own section for the CPPA. So for anybody who's listening today, maybe you don't want to go dive into the full SPPA. Maybe you don't have the time. Maybe you don't want to spend the money. Whatever it is, you can still get your certification. And you can do that by only registering for just the SPPA course. It's confusing because you're thinking, well, that's the SPPA. Well, the SPPA course allows you to have your CPPA certification. The other courses for the SPPA is what gives you the SPPA. So the ethics and the AIC courses and those ones is what gives you the full SPPA designation. So if you go onto the institutes today and you ask for just the SPPA class, then you can get the CPPA designation. Most of us don't know that. So me, you, Jessica Isom, who happens to be our committee chair, she also did the same exact thing. She had already finished and then she got her certification after she already had her SPPA designation. But we want more people to know that you can get your certification if you want to take that class first. You can get that. And then as you can decide to work on the rest of it after that as well.
Correct.
So how long did it take you to get the SPPA designation?
It didn't take long at all. I bet it was 3 months. I don't remember. It's been several years now. But it was a very short time. Honestly, a lot of us guys that I'll call, a little more seasoned maybe, we know a lot of these things that's in the material already, only because we have the knowledge of it and we're doing them day in, day out. It really didn't take a whole lot of extra studying. I could see that someone new and starting out and wanted to, it'd be probably hard to jump right into the SPPA. I wouldn't do that. I would go the CPPA route, and really the courses are good. I mean, they could always be better, but they are good courses. It does hit on exactly the things that we face, the things that we're supposed to know, the way we're supposed to handle ourselves, all those type of things. But it's really not that, it's not that long. I know 3-6 months, is about what I think. I'm not sure. I know it only took me probably 90 days to get mine, only because I had lost, you can sign up for testing windows. Then if you miss that window, then it's too bad, so sad. And I had done that once or twice and I was extremely upset with myself. And so the third time I said, that's not happening again. And so I powered through it.
Did you have any of the other courses that you had previously taken that went towards your SPPA?
I did. There were some other AIC, not the 304 that's there, but there were some other AIC classes that I had taken. I don't recall the numbers currently. I'd have to look at my resume, which is another thing. The institutes, it keeps your resume. It has all the classes you've successfully taken. If there were ever any that you took and had a test at the end and you didn't pass, it has those on there. It'll keep your entire transcript, that you can produce should you ever want to, or include it in your CV or something to that effect.
I don't know if we need to make this the longest podcast in the world. Maybe we can do future ones where we're talking about specific classes. Obviously, just we can talk about some of the classes they have. There's the claims principles and practices for public adjusting. There's also just increasing your insurance IQ. Those are some of the classes that they have, and maybe we'll talk about those specific. But what I wanted to ask you today, Rick, is when you were doing your SPPA, as you were doing it, is there one thing that you learned, that you really learned from taking that you took with you after you were done, that you can look back on your designation and go, I learned that in that class?
Ooh, Alice, I don't know. I hadn't given that enough thought lately. I got to be honest. I really can't off the top of my head. I can tell you one thing right now that I'm thinking. It's not very expensive either. I know you're probably going there, but you can do this in a short amount of time and not for a whole lot of money. But I have to tragically say that, no, I don't remember right this second one thing that I learned from the class. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll tell you something I learned. How about that?
Perfect. Yeah.
I actually learned, and this might have been in the AIC, but it's something that I harken back to quite a bit. And it talks about different types of way to negotiate. They talk about win-win, win-lose, lose-lose, and they have the different types of negotiation ways that you can negotiate. And it's interesting because it really comes more from the insurance company's aspect than from the public adjuster, because you're reading the class as an insurance company adjuster. And that's one of the things for me that I love so much about these kind of classes, is it really allows you to understand the way that the insurance company is negotiating with you. And once I read about what they believe is a win-win, what they believe is a lose-lose, and what they believe is a win-lose, it's easier for me to be able to negotiate on behalf of my insured, on behalf of my client, to get the best possible settlement for them, while knowing what the insurance company needs in order to feel like they're having a win-win. So that was one thing that I really learned from it, and I thought it was a really great thing that I've used since receiving the designation.
I love that, and I knew I would start remembering things when you started talking. But yes, and you know that I can tell you from being on the other side. I mean, that's legitimate. That is, you know, you look. These guys and gals, they have a job to do, right? They're getting paid by a company to pay claims. They would probably a lot of times love to pay, you know, because it's easier. To having to say no is tougher than it is to say sure, Mr. Deering. But the fact of the matter is there are boxes they have to check. If we as PAs know those boxes, like you just said, we know what's a win-win for them, then you can help manage that process and get it into their win-win box. And then it becomes a win-win, you know, for you and your client. So yeah, I get that. Yep, I agree. That's a good observation.
Well, we're so thankful for everybody to come and listen to this. Right now, we're wanting to explain what the new process is for becoming a board member or for becoming an officer. That we want people to get certified, and we want people to do it for their own education, but also so that they're the best for the industry and for their clients. We're going to continue giving information out. We'll get some stuff on there, and we'll be happy to help anybody who might need to a little bit of resources on how to navigate the Institute's website. You can always contact any of us to help. Is there anything else that you want to add, Rick?
No, Alice, I agree. I'm glad to see the board, you know, take this direction. I know we were all super stoked on the committee last year that we were able to get a bylaw change, which, you know as well as I do. I mean, it doesn't just happen. I mean, there has to be major buy-in from everyone involved. And let's be honest, our request or our push or whatever you want to call that it's a little bit new age for some of the older generation, you know, and there was a little bit of pushback, but we were able to make our case, make our point, and everybody is bought in. And it's just, I know it's sort of cliche-ish and all that, but you know, when you continue to work on yourself and you continue to improve, everyone around you improve, the whole thing improves, our industry improves. And so I'm all in about, you know, and I've never been accused of being the sharpest knife in the drawer, you know, so I always got to stay on top and get fed the new material. So anyhow, again, thank you for your leadership on that committee, Alice.
That's a perfect way to explain it. So thank you, Rick, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you, girl. Bye.
Bye.